Some people say this is the last chance to buy MoonBreon, but is that really true? Let's dig into the calculations to see if the price increase makes sense. MoonBreon, what a story it's been these past 2 months. In this video, we're going to go deep into the calculations of this card. This will not be a video where we just ramble off if you think you should buy it or you shouldn't buy it. We're going to look at it from a statistical, an analytical, a technical standpoint, the movement of this card. I hope this information will serve you well and can be an eye-opener in terms of these high price cards of, is it worth to add to my collection? So the first thing that I like to look at when I'm looking at a card's value is I want to determine what is its standard deviation. Now, most of y'all, you might not know what this is, or you might not have heard this since you've been in high school or further up from there, but it's a very important number when you're looking at these high price cards. So what is the standard deviation? And what it is a statistical measurement that looks how far the points in a data sets are dispersed from the mean of that set. Okay, so I'm looking at a high point and a low point, and I want to determine this variance is almost the best term to use of how can this card swing in price. Okay, I'll get an average price and I'll see what people are paying over that average price and under that average price. Okay, so that's one point, and I want to show you what that looks like. So like I said, I got to try to do this in a short amount of time because I could talk all day with numbers on this card. But check this out. If I take a recent sample, I took 9 different data plots here from sales that happened in November. Okay, some of those range all the way down to $1,785. Some of them ranged up to almost $2,300. And we're looking at the MoonBreon card, guys. Okay, so if we take that sum of these numbers, we come up to $17,553. Okay, the first step I look at is determining the mean of that. Well, how do you do that? You sum those up and you divide it by the count that you have there, which is 9. Okay, so what it determines is we have an average price right now, and like I said, this is just a sample of data points, but these are accurate numbers. Comes up with an average data of $1,950.31 average price, but we can't necessarily go off that because people are paying more than that and people are paying less than that. And we see this, you go on eBay and it's all over the place, Facebook, card shops, etc. So what I interpret from this is, let's go on to the next thing that I use that number for, is I want to look at the deviant calculation. I want to take what the average price is and I want to see the data from what's on each one of these sales. Okay, and here's an example. I'll take the average minus what was this 1,850 sale. Okay, that was $100.31 difference, and we're going to go down each one of these data points to see what was the variance. Some are higher than 1950.31, some are lower. Okay, let's keep going. So now I take these numbers here, the over and under from the average, and I'm going to square it to get the next part of the deviation equation done. Okay, how do you do that? You take that and times it by itself. Okay, some say to the second power. If you just take it and times it by itself, these are the numbers that you come up with. I'm not going to go in why you have to do that. It's just part of the calculation. Okay, so if I take that and then add all of these up, these are the sum of the deviations. There's 9 total data sets that we're utilizing here. Okay, if I then divide this in, my variance comes up to $29,245.67. You're probably like, what the hell is this? Don't worry, let's keep going of what this calculates out to be. So with that, you take, okay, the square root of this number. It comes up to $171.01. What does that mean? That is the standard deviation of this data of MoonBreon. Okay, so what does that tell us? Well, let's look. A small standard deviation, and I'm going to say $50 is what I put in for this example. It would suggest that most prices are tightly clustered near the average, indicating a stable price. What is a high deviation? Well, in this case here, the standard deviation is $171.01. That shows a high variability, meaning that the sales price fluctuates significantly. Some prices were higher, some were much lower than average. Okay, that's a no-brainer. No-brainer. But what I look at as someone that is possibly wanting to purchase a MoonBreon is, man, I could possibly buy it on the high end, but people are selling it on the low end below the average. Saw on Facebook today someone selling a MoonBreon for $1,600 in a PSA 10. So people don't really know what to sell it at. Okay, and people are just buying this card. And then people are selling, but they're selling it higher than they bought it for. I can promise you that. So I want to look at another calculation, because this tells us the standard deviation. That doesn't really tell me if this card's risky or not. Most people think this is the holy grail. Well, let's see. Let's go to our next sheet here. We're going to look at the beta of MoonBreon. So what is the beta? The beta measures the sensitivity of a card's return to returns of a broader market. Much like a stock, you're trying to analyze it to the S&P. It will quantify systematic risk with the card. I want to see if this card's risky when the market moves, as the Pokemon market as a whole. So let's see what beta calculations would look like. A beta that's equal to 1 means that the card would move similar to how the market moves. Okay, if the Pokemon market as a whole has an uptick of 10%, MoonBreon should uptick 10%. If MoonBreon's got a beta greater than 1, just say 1.5, what that means is MoonBreon should rise or fall 15% for every 10% that the Pokemon market moves up or down 10%. So MoonBreon would rise 15 up or down depending on for every 10% of the Pokemon market. A beta that's less than 1 means it's less volatile. So that means if the Pokemon market went up 10%, MoonBreon should only move 7%. Vice versa. Goes down, it should only go down 7. A beta of 0 means there's no correlation at all. MoonBreon's in its own market. Doesn't care if there's a hype in Pokemon. It's got its own market. And then a beta less than 0 means it inversely removes. If there's a hype in Pokemon, MoonBreon goes down. Vice versa. Okay? So, let's see here. Like I said, we have to get an index, and we're going to use the Pokemon market as a whole in terms of cards. Okay? So, how do we look at that? First, we've got to calculate some things out. I'll try to go through this as fast as I can. We've got to get a variance number here. We got to get MoonBreon's returns and the market returns. And we're using a market proxy, like I said, as the Pokemon card index from Price Chart. So let's look. Smaller data set here, but we've got 5. These are different sales in November that occurred. And then we've got the index. So let's calculate the weekly returns. For the week of November 8th, 1950 to 1800 went up. So how much did it go up by? Well, 8.33% increase, right? Simple math. The next week of the 15th, 7.69 went down. 2.38 went down. 7.32. What did the Pokemon market as a whole do? 2.94, negative 0.95, negative 0.28. What all does that mean? Okay. Well, now we can get our covariance and variance. We can calculate beta. So I've done the calculations down here for you, and it comes up to a beta of 2.83. What does that mean? The beta 2.83 suggests that MoonBreon's price is significantly more volatile than the Pokemon market. We've looked at here If we go up, a beta greater than 1 means it's more volatile. So if the Pokemon market, for every 1% that it increases in hype, MoonBreon should increase 2.83. Vice versa. Every decrease of 1% in the Pokemon market, MoonBreon, every 1%, then MoonBreon should decrease 2.83. It indicates that MoonBreon is highly reactive to the hype of the Pokemon card industry as a whole. So what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of different interpretations here. We got to throw emotional completely out of this equation. It means that if Pokemon keeps rising in terms of hype, then MoonBreon should keep going up in price. If there's a die-off in the Pokemon hype, MoonBreon should fall based off this data set. I have another video out there that talks about, is Pokemon affordable for the average collector and the average age group with the average income within that age group? Well, MoonBreon's really almost at that total savings amount for the year. So can MoonBreon and will MoonBreon be tapped out in price? Well, that's hard to say, and that's not my job here to tell you if it will or will not. But I will let you interpret this, and I highly recommend you check out that video, especially after watching this. But what now I know is that even though everybody says MoonBreon's the holy grail, it's volatile. It is very volatile, and it can swing up and down anyway. 2.83% beta is a very high beta, and a standard deviation of over $171 means that this card is swinging all over the place, and it's not established its own market yet. If we look at first edition Charizard in a PSA 10, it has its own market. It does not care that people are buying MoonBreons, and it does not care if more people are getting into Pokemon. It doesn't care. It has zero correlation. All right, but MoonBreon does. So hope this made sense. Like I said, the goal of this video is not to tell you should or you should not buy it, but it is there to say, hey man, this is still a high risky card, but it is very rewarding. You know, some people bought it at $400, $500, $1,000, and you're up at a really good amount. But it still could swing either way at this price. It has not stabilized. So anyway, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The support has been amazing so far. Also, when you comment, tell me if you like these kind of videos, or you would just want to see pack opening videos. Either way, thank you for joining the Poke Lab for this video. Hope everybody has a good night. See you next time.